I had never felt so dizzy standing in my own living room. My phone vibrated again, and my heart sank before I even looked. I knew. I didn't want to know, but I knew. Ethan, what the hell is this? I hissed, waving the message in front of him when he walked in. He froze, blinking like a deer caught in headlights. I can explain, he stammered, but his voice sounded weak, unconvincing. Explain? You've been meeting her behind my back for weeks. Every excuse, every late night. It was all a lie. My hand shook, and I pressed the phone closer to his face. Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, then muttered, I didn't mean for you to find out like this. Like this. I shouted. Do you have any idea how it feels to realize the person you trusted most has been lying to you every single day? My throat tightened. I felt tears prickling, but I refused to let them fall in front of him. I thought we were over this, Ethan whispered, finally meeting my eyes. Over what? I asked, my voice breaking despite myself. Us. I made a mistake. Please, I can fix this. I laughed bitterly, a sound that felt foreign in my own mouth. Fix this? How do you fix betrayal, Ethan? How do you undo every single lie, every secret meeting, everything? He opened his mouth again, but I cut him off. I don't even know if I want to hear your excuses. You've already destroyed enough. I sank onto the couch, my hands covering my face. I couldn't breathe properly, my chest tight with anger and heartbreak. I remembered Lena's text from earlier, asking if I was okay. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling. I dialed her number. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, I thought you'd be at work. Everything okay? She asked cheerfully, but I could hear the hesitation underneath. Lena, did you know about Ethan? My voice was sharp, brittle. Silence. Then she said, I didn't want to tell you. Thought, I don't know. You thought what? That keeping secrets from me was protecting me? That lying for him was protecting me. My hands balled into fists and I realized I was shaking. I just didn't want you to get hurt, Lena whispered. Well, congratulations, I spat. You failed. Both of you. I hung up before she could respond, my mind spinning. I walked to the window, staring at the city lights below, feeling like I didn't belong anywhere anymore. I couldn't stop the flood of memories. Every promise Ethan made. Every time Lena smiled at a secret I wasn't supposed to know. I felt weak, powerless, but underneath the hurt, a spark of determination ignited. I couldn't let this go unanswered. I wouldn't. Not yet. I sat back down and stared at my phone again. The messages, the lies, they were all proof. I couldn't just confront Ethan. I needed answers, proof, closure. My chest ached with the thought of what was coming next, but I knew I had to act. I would face him, face Lena, and I would find the truth no matter how ugly it was. Even if it broke me completely, I needed to know why. My fingers hovered over the keyboard again. Not to send a message, but to gather my courage. I whispered to myself almost like a vow. I'm not staying broken. Not anymore. I stared at my phone, scrolling through old messages and pictures, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief twisting in my chest. How did I miss all this? I muttered aloud. A text from Ethan popped up, casual as ever. I hesitated, then dialed his number. He answered on the first ring. Hey, everything okay? His voice was smooth, almost too normal. Everything okay? I repeated sharply. You tell me, Ethan. Because I've been digging, and I see a lot of things that don't add up. There was a pause. I don't know what you mean, he said finally, a hint of nervousness creeping in. Don't play games with me. You've been lying to me for months. My hand shook as I gripped the phone. Lies? He asked as if confused. Yes, lies. The late nights, the secret meetings, the things you've said you'd never do. All lies. I could hear his swallow on the other end. I didn't want you to find out this way, he said weakly. This way? You think the way I found out makes it okay? I snapped. Do you even realize what this does to me? I hung up and called Lena next. The line rang, then clicked. Hello. Her voice was clipped. Lena, I need the truth, I demanded. I know you've been hiding things about Ethan. Silence. I don't know what you're talking about, she said finally, her tone flat. Don't lie to me, Lena. I trusted you. My voice trembled and I felt a bitter twist of shame. I didn't want to hurt you, she admitted quietly. Hurt me? I laughed bitterly. You think keeping secrets is less hurtful than the truth? You've been protecting him, not me. Her quiet cough came over the line, and I felt a flicker of betrayal sharper than before. I thought, maybe it would be easier if you didn't know, she said. Easier? You call this easier? My voice broke slightly, but I pushed forward. You lied to me. Both of you. And I deserve to know why. I sank onto the couch, the city lights outside a blur behind my eyes. I kept replaying little moments, every time I brushed off a late text, every excuse he gave. How could I have been so blind? I ignored the signs. I whispered to myself, voice barely audible. I couldn't stop the rage twisting inside me, but shame followed quickly, tightening my chest. The person I thought I was, a smart, independent woman, felt like a stranger. I dialed Ethan again, hands shaking. I need to see you, I said quietly, but with steel in my voice. I need answers, all of them. He hesitated. Are you sure this is what you want? Yes, I said. I deserve it. No more lies. He sighed on the line, almost defeated. Fine. Tomorrow. I ended the call and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow. I didn't know if I was ready, but I knew I couldn't wait any longer. The betrayal ran deeper than I imagined, and this time I would face it head-on. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, breathing hard. The apartment felt colder than ever, the silence pressing against my ears. Why does everything hurt so much? I whispered to myself, voice barely audible. I hadn't spoken to anyone since the morning, hadn't answered texts or calls. Even Lena's messages went ignored. I didn't want anyone. I didn't trust anyone. The darkness of the night outside mirrored the storm inside me, and I felt completely alone. My phone buzzed. I stared at it, unwilling to look, but curiosity won. It was Aunt May. I'm worried about you. Can we talk? I almost deleted it. Almost. Instead, I typed back slowly. Not now. She replied almost instantly. Please. I just want to make sure you're okay. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to ignore her, part of me craved connection. Finally, I wrote, I'm fine. Later that night, I went out to grab air, walking down the empty street. My hands shook as I fumbled with my keys. I didn't notice the car parked too close until I scraped my door against it. Shit! I hissed, stepping back, staring at the scratch. My chest tightened as I touched it. Just like my life, I thought bitterly. A small impact, but it hurt anyway. I closed my eyes and whispered, everything's broken. A car pulled up beside me. Are you okay? A familiar voice asked. I turned to see Aunt May stepping out, concern written across her face. I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. She sighed, coming closer. I know you've been avoiding everyone. I don't blame you, but hiding won't make it better. I don't. I can't deal with anyone right now, I admitted, my voice cracking. I feel worthless, abandoned. I added, my hands shaking. She nodded gently, kneeling slightly to meet my eyes. You're not worthless, honey. You've been hurt badly, and it's okay to feel lost. But you don't have to stay in the dark alone. I bit my lip, staring at the ground. I don't even know how to start over, I whispered. Everything I trusted, everything I believed in, it's gone. Aunt May put a hand on my shoulder. Start small. Just one step at a time. You don't need to fix everything at once. But you do need to let someone in, even just a little. Her words sank in deeper than I expected. I wanted to argue, to push her away, but I couldn't. I wanted to survive, even if I didn't fully realize it yet. We walked back to my apartment together, and she kept talking softly. Anger is natural, but don't let it consume you. There's still hope. There's still you. I nodded silently, feeling the weight on my chest ease just slightly. For the first time in days, I allowed myself a shaky breath. The night still felt heavy, but it wasn't suffocating. Thank you, I murmured, for not giving up on me. She smiled gently. You're stronger than you know. And I'll be here until you believe it too. I glanced at the scratch on my car door again, then at her. Maybe I can start figuring things out, I admitted. She squeezed my hand. That's all it takes, one step. For the first time since everything fell apart, I felt a faint spark. Survival didn't seem impossible. Not yet. I watched Ethan across the room at the office party, pretending to laugh with coworkers while I held my drink tight. I could feel the anger simmering, a slow, hot burn in my chest. So this is how he does it, I muttered under my breath, watching his fake charm. Lena was there too, leaning against the wall, smirking at something he said. I clenched my fists. Some people are just beyond reasoning, I whispered to myself. Later, when I was alone, I dialed Ethan's number. Hey, he said, casual, almost too casual. We need to talk, I said, my voice calm but sharp. About what? He asked, already defensive. About every lie you've told me. Every excuse. Every secret meeting. I've been quiet too long. There was a pause. I don't know what you want me to say, he muttered. I want the truth. All of it. And I want to see if you understand what you've done. I could hear him shift on the other end, uncertain. I hung up and stared at my phone. Memories of the messages, the hidden calls, the whispers of betrayal. They fueled my determination. I didn't want to act out of blind hatred. I wanted justice. I wanted control. I whispered to myself, it's not about revenge. It's about balance. About making sure you can't hurt me again. The next day, Lena cornered me in the hallway. You're awfully quiet lately, she said, her smile sharp. Just thinking, I replied lightly, watching her closely. About what? She pressed. About choices, I said, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I could see the tiny flicker of doubt in her expression, and it pleased me. You think I don't notice, don't understand? Some people are too blind to see themselves, I muttered under my breath as she walked away. I started keeping careful tabs on Ethan's schedule, his interactions, and even small social hints. If you think I won't notice, you're wrong, I whispered as I observed him from across the cafe. I made mental notes of his lies, every detail, every slip. Lena's teasing messages in the group chat were easy to ignore, but they reminded me that some people thrive on control. You can't fix everyone, I told myself, but you can stop them from controlling you. That night I sat at my desk poring over what I knew. I could forgive, I could expose, or I could dismantle their carefully crafted lives piece by piece. No, I whispered, shaking my head. This isn't about cruelty. It's about justice. About surviving. My reflection in the dark window stared back at me, resolute. I could feel the shift inside me, the moment when I stopped being a victim. I closed my eyes and murmured, I won't be powerless anymore. I will rise quietly, carefully. And I will be ready. I was sitting at my desk, staring blankly at my screen, when Daniel leaned over. Hey, you okay? He asked quietly. His voice wasn't intrusive, just concerned. I glanced at him, forcing a small smile. Yeah, fine, I said, though my voice sounded hollow even to me. He raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. Fine, he repeated. You don't look fine. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I'm just dealing with some stuff, I admitted finally. Daniel nodded slowly. If you want to talk, I'm here. I hesitated, then whispered, it's about Ethan and Lena. His eyes widened slightly. Go on, he said. I glanced around the office, lowering my voice. Ethan, he's been manipulating things at work. Sabotaging projects, hiding funds. I just found out. Daniel frowned. Seriously? That's huge. I nodded, bitterness tightening my chest. And Lena, she's hiding things too. Secrets. I don't even know everything yet. Daniel leaned closer. We'll figure it out. Maybe there's a way to expose them without ruining yourself. I chewed my lip. That's the question. Do I even try? Or do I just let karma do its work? The next day, I overheard Ethan laughing with a few coworkers in the break room. Can you believe she actually thinks she can handle this? He mocked. Everything's falling apart around her, and she doesn't even see it. My hands tightened into fists. Unbelievable, I muttered under my breath. Daniel appeared beside me, frowning. He's really crossing a line this time, he said softly. Do you want to respond now, or wait for the right moment? I shook my head, trying to calm my racing thoughts. Wait, I said. I need to be smart about this. Later, Daniel brought me some files quietly. I did some digging, he said, lowering his voice. Look at this. I scanned the documents. Discrepancies in Ethan's accounts, manipulated reports, subtle signs of sabotage. My blood boiled. He's been planning this for months, I whispered, my fingers trembling. Daniel put a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You're not alone in this. We can fix it carefully. I nodded, swallowing hard. That evening, I confronted Lena over text. I know there's more you're hiding, I typed, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. A moment later, she replied, you don't understand everything. Maybe it's better you don't. I clenched my jaw. Better I don't? Better I don't see the truth while he's laughing at me. I whispered to myself, shaking my head. No. I need to know. Daniel called later. You okay? He asked. Yeah. I think I have a clearer picture now, I admitted. But it's worse than I thought. He was silent for a moment. Sometimes knowing is better, though. At least now you can act. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. Act or watch karma take its course. That's my dilemma, I muttered, my voice low. Daniel nodded. Whatever you choose, you won't be alone. I ended the call and stared at the papers in front of me. The anger, the betrayal, the secrets, they were all there waiting. I knew what I needed to do next. I would not let them control my life, and I would not stand by. Daniel's quiet support gave me courage. Finally, for the first time since it all started, I felt like I had a plan. And plans meant power. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, trying to find the version of me that still believed in trust. Enough, I whispered, voice trembling but firm. I won't let them control me anymore. My hands shook as I made a list in my notebook. People to confront, finances to secure, boundaries to set. I dialed Ethan's number first. I need to speak to you, I said when he answered. About what? He asked, a hint of smugness in his voice. About everything. I'm done letting you manipulate my life, I replied. Silence. You don't get to do this to me anymore, I added, feeling my own courage grow. Later I texted Lena. We need to talk. Now. She replied almost immediately, fine. Meet me at the cafe. I arrived first, heart pounding, rehearsing what I wanted to say. When she walked in, smiling that fake charm, I took a deep breath. Lena, why? I asked bluntly, sliding into the seat across from her. She raised an eyebrow. Why what? Why betray me? Why hide things? Why protect him instead of me? I leaned forward, voice low but steady. Lena smirked. I did what I had to do. You wouldn't understand. Try me, I pressed. Her smile faltered slightly. I'm not sorry. I wanted what was best for me. For us, I thought, she admitted finally. For yourself, I corrected, voice sharp. Exactly. I stared at her, feeling the anger surge, but I didn't yell. I didn't need to. Knowing the truth was enough. I spent the next few days quietly reclaiming my life. I'm done answering calls that drain me, I muttered to myself, turning off notifications. I reviewed my bank accounts, moving funds to secure savings. No one gets to touch this again, I whispered, the word again tasting bitter. I deleted messages, blocked numbers, and reconnected only with those who mattered. The small steps felt huge. Each decision reminded me that I had power. That evening Daniel called. You sound different, he said. Like more in control. I smiled faintly, leaning back. I am. Scared, yes. But also awake. I'm reclaiming myself. His laughter was soft. Good. You deserve it. I glanced at my reflection in the window, dark city lights behind me. It's scary, you know? I admitted to myself. Change demands courage. I thought of Ethan and Lena, of the lies and manipulation, but instead of despair, I felt resolve. I will not let them define me, I whispered, almost a vow. Each confrontation, each decision was a small victory. I imagined future days where I wouldn't flinch at messages or whispers, where I could breathe without fear. Lena's selfish motives no longer controlled my reactions, and Ethan's manipulation no longer haunted my thoughts. As I closed my notebook, I exhaled fully for the first time in weeks. This is the turning point, I said softly, voice steady. No more running. No more hiding. I take back my life. I choose me. The fear was still there, fluttering like wings in my chest, but so was the power, the knowledge that I could face anything and not crumble. And for the first time in a long while, I felt alive. I walked past the office glass doors and overheard a group whispering about Ethan. Did you see the report? He's behind on every project this month, one said. I stopped mid-step, a flicker of satisfaction warming my chest. I didn't smile though. I just muttered under my breath. Karma's whisper. Later Daniel caught up with me. You heard? He asked softly. Yeah. Finally some consequences, I replied. My voice sounded calm but inside my pulse raced. I wasn't gloating, at least I tried not to be, but I couldn't deny the relief. It doesn't feel wrong to see him stumble, he asked. I shook my head slightly. It feels necessary. Lena's group chat lit up with subtle criticisms from people I barely recognized. She's not who I thought she was, one wrote. I read every word quietly at my desk, heart tightening. Part of me was relieved, finally people were seeing her selfishness, but another part felt conflicted. Should I intervene or let the world reveal her truth naturally? I typed a short message to Daniel. She's getting what's coming. I don't need to push it. He replied instantly, good. Let it unfold. That night, I returned home and saw a small figure on the stairwell. Hi, a soft voice said. I looked down to see a young girl, no more than 10, holding a sketchbook. Hi, I responded cautiously. I'm Sophia. I just moved in. Her eyes were wide, curious, and unafraid. I felt an unexpected warmth in my chest. I'm your neighbor, I said, smiling faintly. She grinned and held up a drawing. Look, this is me and my cat. I knelt down to see. The innocence, the excitement. It reminded me of myself, long before betrayal had hardened me. It's beautiful, I said softly. Sophia beamed. Thanks. You like drawing? I shook my head. Not much, but I like seeing it. The next day at work, Ethan walked in, shoulders stiff, face pale. Someone whispered, looks like he's finally losing control. I didn't laugh out loud. Instead I muttered, finally facing reality. Daniel passed my desk. Careful, he said. Don't let the satisfaction consume you. I nodded. I'm not enjoying this. I'm observing. That's different. Later Lena called me, her tone clipped. I heard about Ethan. Things are complicated. I let out a quiet laugh, almost to myself. Complicated? Or just consequences catching up to you both? I asked. Silence. You should know actions have effects, I said softly, almost as if I were warning myself too. She hung up before replying. That evening I watched Sophia play in the courtyard, laughing freely. I sat on the bench nearby, thinking about my own life, the betrayals, the heartbreak, the slow rebuilding. Maybe this is my chance to start over too, I whispered to myself. Watching her reminded me that innocence and hope weren't lost. I could reclaim them piece by piece. Karma had done its subtle work, but the real transformation, the rebirth, was mine to claim. I went back inside my apartment, closing the door quietly. The world outside hummed with life, some bitter, some beautiful. I breathed deeply, whispering again, I survived. I'll keep surviving. The shadows of the past lingered, but for the first time they didn't scare me. I sat on the couch, hugging my knees, staring at the blank wall as if it could answer the questions I couldn't voice. Why does this still hurt so much? I whispered to myself. Sophia peeked around the corner, her small face curious. You okay? She asked softly. I forced a smile. Yeah, just thinking. She tilted her head. About what? I hesitated, then whispered. About things I can't change. Things from long ago. She nodded slowly, as if she understood more than her age allowed. Later, Aunt May joined me, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. Want to talk? She asked. I shook my head at first. I don't know if I can. It's complicated. She crouched down to meet my eyes. Start anywhere. I'm listening. I swallowed hard and muttered. When I was little, I always felt like I had to keep everyone happy. Mom, Dad. Always angry or busy. I learned to hide my feelings, to trust no one fully. Aunt May's eyes softened. That explains a lot, she said quietly. It's no wonder betrayal cuts so deep. You've been carrying it for years. I closed my eyes, remembering small moments. My father's sudden shouts, my mother's disappointed sighs, the nights I cried alone. I thought I was prepared for this, I admitted, voice trembling. But Ethan, Lena, it reopened everything. Aunt May squeezed my hand. It's okay to hurt, but it's also time to forgive yourself. For trusting, for loving, for surviving. I bit my lip trying to absorb her words. Forgive myself. I don't even know how, I whispered. That night, Sophia curled up next to me with her sketchbook. Look what I drew, she said brightly. I looked at the page and my chest warmed at the innocence and hope in her lines. It's beautiful, I said softly. She grinned. You like it? I nodded. Yes, it reminds me of things I used to believe in. That the world isn't all hurt and betrayal. The memories pressed in again, harder this time. I always blamed myself for everything, I admitted to Aunt May later. For being too naive. For trusting people like Ethan. For letting Lena manipulate me. It's like I never stopped expecting punishment. She shook her head. You were a child and now you're still learning. You can stop the cycle. You can forgive yourself first. I let out a shaky laugh. Feels impossible. Daniel called that evening. How are you holding up? He asked. Better, I said softly. I'm facing things I ignored. Childhood, betrayal, myself. He was silent for a moment. That's huge. Facing the past is the first step to taking back your life. I smiled faintly, glancing at Sophia drawing nearby. I think. I'm starting to understand. I can survive this. I can forgive myself. Maybe even be happy again. I sat back, letting the quiet of the room settle around me. The pain was still there, but it didn't suffocate me anymore. I could feel the strength in accepting my past, the courage in trusting myself again. I whispered to no one but myself. I survived before, and I will keep surviving. I forgive me now. For the first time in years, I believed it might be true. I clutched the folder Daniel had given me, feeling the weight of every page, every document, every proof of Ethan's lies. The social event was in full swing, laughter and chatter echoing through the hall. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, this ends tonight. I spotted Ethan across the room holding a drink, laughing with his friends. Lena was nearby, pretending to enjoy herself, but I could see the tension in her eyes. I walked toward them, heart pounding. Ethan, I called loud enough to make heads turn. He turned surprised, his smile faltering. What is it? He asked, voice tight. I held up the folder. I think it's time everyone here knows who you really are. Gasps spread through the crowd. What do you mean? Lena demanded, stepping forward. I ignored her, opening the folder. Ethan has been manipulating our work projects, hiding funds and lying to everyone in this room. I said, my voice steady but fierce. He's been sabotaging colleagues, using lies to cover his mistakes, and pretending to be someone he's not. I could see his friend's eyes widen, confusion and shock taking over. This is false. Ethan stammered, but I held up the documents. Check the dates. Check the accounts. The truth doesn't lie. Lena tried to intervene. Stop this. You're overreacting, he didn't mean. I cut her off, voice sharp. No, Lena. He didn't mean anything, just like you didn't mean to betray me. But the truth is here now. You can't cover it up. She faltered, her smirk gone. I felt a wave of triumph but also a strange pity. These were the people who had caused me so much pain, and now they were exposed, vulnerable, human. Ethan's face drained of color. You don't understand, he whispered, panic rising. I shook my head. I understand perfectly. I understand that your lies end here. I'm done being manipulated, done being hurt. I choose truth, even when it's hard. His friends murmured among themselves, some nodding in disbelief, others exchanging uneasy glances. You'll regret this, he spat finally, voice shaking. I smiled faintly. No. I've never felt more free. Lena's eyes flickered with anger and fear. You can't just, I interrupted, calm now. I can. I finally can. And this isn't about revenge, not really. It's about reclaiming myself. Ethan's hands trembled as he tried to gather himself, but it was too late. The humiliation was written across his face, mirrored in Lena's. They turned to leave, retreating toward the exit, heads down. Goodbye, I murmured under my breath, though loud enough for them to hear. I hope someday you understand what you lost. As they disappeared into the crowd, a quiet cheer rose from a few colleagues. Daniel appeared beside me, placing a hand lightly on my shoulder. You did it, he said softly. You faced them, and you didn't lose yourself in the process. I nodded, feeling a rush of relief, pride, and something deeper, closure. I had reclaimed my dignity without letting hatred consume me. I let my gaze wander around the room, taking in the curious, surprised faces. I whispered again, more to myself than anyone else. I'm done hiding. I'm done being hurt. I choose me first. The rest of the night passed in a blur of murmurs and quiet congratulations, but inside I felt a steady, calm strength that I had never known before. The masks were gone. The truth was out, and I was finally free. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, letting out a long, shaky breath. The confrontation with Ethan and Lena was over, but the weight of it lingered. My hands itched restless and I whispered to myself, I can't keep carrying this. I pulled out the stack of old letters and messages, each one a reminder of trust misplaced, hope betrayed. You're not going to define me anymore, I murmured, lighting the first letter. The flames curled, blackening paper, and a strange warmth spread through me. A knock at the door startled me. Sophia peeked in, holding her sketchbook. Are you okay? She asked softly. I nodded, forcing a smile. I'm getting there. She stepped in, sitting quietly on the couch. Sometimes burning old stuff helps, she said, as if she understood exactly what I needed. I chuckled lightly. Yeah, it does. I watched the letters curl and turn to ash, realizing each one represented a piece of the old me, naive, hurt, and powerless. Now they were gone. I moved through my apartment, opening windows, letting in the night air. Dusty corners, old mementos, remnants of past relationships. I cleared them, packed some away, tossed others. Out with the old, in with the new, I whispered to myself. Each action felt symbolic, a ritual of shedding the layers that had weighed me down. Even the faint ache in my chest from betrayal didn't feel crushing anymore. It felt like a scar I had earned, proof that I survived. Daniel called just as I finished clearing a shelf. How's my favorite survivor? He asked. I laughed softly, the sound shaky but genuine. Feeling lighter, I admitted. Like I finally reclaimed something that was mine all along. Good, he said. You fought, you stood up, and now you're free. That's real strength. I nodded, staring out the window at the city lights. Strength, it doesn't always feel heroic. Sometimes it's just breathing again, even when everything reminds you of the past. I sat on the floor, leaning against the sofa, letting the quiet fill the room. The flames of the letters and the cleared spaces around me reflected my inner state. Burned, emptied, renewed. I won't let betrayal define me anymore, I whispered. I am not my pain. I am not my scars. I am me. Sophia crawled over, handing me her sketchbook. Here, draw with me, she said brightly. I hesitated, then smiled and took a pencil. Maybe I will, I said softly. The act was simple, small, but in it I found a strange comfort. Creating something new, even just lines on a page, felt like planting seeds for the future. As the night stretched on, I stood by the window looking out at the world. The city hummed below, alive and indifferent, but I felt different, aware of my resilience, my power to move forward. I survived everything they tried to take from me, I whispered. And now, I get to choose who I am, who I become. I finally exhaled fully, letting the tension drain from my shoulders. For the first time in months, I didn't feel broken. I felt whole. I felt alive. I had burned, cleared, let go, and in that pain I had been reborn. I sat at the small kitchen table with Aunt May, a steaming cup of tea between us. You've changed, she said softly, her eyes warm. I smiled faintly. I think I'm finally starting to see who I am, without all the lies and betrayal. She nodded, reaching across to squeeze my hand. It's a good thing, honey. You've earned this. The words felt strange, almost foreign, but comforting. For the first time in months, I wasn't fighting alone. Later that afternoon, Daniel stopped by, holding a small box of pastries. I thought you could use a sweet break, he said, smiling. Thanks, I replied, feeling the warmth spread in my chest. We sat on the balcony, sharing the pastries and quiet conversation. I've noticed you've been lighter lately, he said, voice gentle. I looked at him, catching the subtle tension in his eyes, the way he lingered on certain words. I'm learning to let go, I admitted. It's not easy, but it's worth it. He nodded. I'm glad. And I'm here anytime you need support. Always. My heart thudded slightly at his words, and I quickly focused on the view outside. forcing a casual tone. I appreciate that more than you know. Sophia bounced into the room then, her sketchbook in hand. Look what I made, she said excitedly. I leaned closer, laughing softly. It's amazing. You're so talented, Sophia. She grinned proudly. You always say that. You make me feel like I can do anything. I felt a surge of warmth. Watching her reminded me how far I had come. From broken and distrustful to capable of nurturing joy in others, even small joys. That evening, Aunt May suggested we cook dinner together. It's silly, but it feels like home, she said, chopping vegetables. I smiled, helping her stir the sauce. It is home. And it feels like mine again, too. Daniel joined in, washing dishes and teasing us both. You two make quite the team, he said with a grin. I laughed, feeling a lightness I hadn't felt in months. The air was filled with warmth, laughter, and a sense of belonging that I had long thought impossible. Later, Daniel and I stepped out onto the balcony, the city lights twinkling below. I like seeing you like this, he said softly. I turned to him, meeting his gaze. There was a tension there, unspoken, but it wasn't rushed. I'm still learning to trust and to feel again, I admitted. He nodded, close but respectful. We'll take it one step at a time. No pressure. Just here together. I felt a flutter, a cautious optimism that hadn't existed before. I watched Sophia play in the living room, Aunt May humming in the kitchen, Daniel beside me, and realized something important. My life wasn't defined by betrayal or pain anymore. I had rebuilt a foundation strong, steady, and filled with hope. I whispered to myself, I can live again. I can love again. I can choose joy. And in that moment I believed it. I walked through the quiet streets, the night air cool against my skin. My phone vibrated briefly with a message from Lena, then Ethan, but I ignored them both. Not today, I whispered to myself, the words feeling heavier and lighter at the same time. I had nothing to say to people who had shown me their true colors and refused to change. Let the world deal with them. I didn't need to anymore. Aunt May called from home. How are you holding up? She asked warmly. I smiled, resting against a lamppost. I'm peaceful. I finally feel like I can breathe again. She chuckled softly. Good. Remember, forgiving others isn't always necessary, but forgiving yourself? That's everything. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. I forgive me, I said aloud, voice quiet but certain. For trusting, for loving, for surviving. Later, Daniel met me at our favorite cafe. You seem lighter, he said, eyes soft. I am, I admitted, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. I'm walking away from everything that tried to hold me down. And it feels good. He reached across the table, fingers brushing mine lightly. You earned this peace, he said. I nodded, feeling a faint warmth in my chest, but my focus was inward, not outward. It's been a long journey, I whispered. But I finally feel like I belong to myself. Sophia waved at me from the park as I passed, sketchbook in hand. Hi, she called, bright as ever. I waved back, laughing softly. Hi, kiddo. Keep drawing. Watching her reminded me that life still held small joys, untouched by betrayal. It reminded me that innocence and hope were not lost, even when darkness had threatened to steal them. I thought briefly of Ethan and Lena. I had seen enough to know they were struggling. Ethan facing professional scrutiny, Lena losing friends who had finally understood her selfishness. My lips curved in a faint, almost sad smile. Justice doesn't always need my hand, I whispered. It arrives quietly on its own. Walking back to my apartment, I carried a lightness I hadn't felt in months. I opened the door and inhaled deeply, the scent of home greeting me. No letters, no lies, no shadows from the past lingered here. Only me. I am enough, I whispered, letting the words settle in my chest. I placed my keys on the table, sat by the window, and watched the city lights blink in the distance. The world was vast, uncertain, but I was ready. That night I journaled quietly, each sentence a promise to myself. To love, to protect, to trust cautiously but fully in the future I could create. I am free, I wrote. I am whole. I forgive myself first, and everything else falls into place. I set the pen down, smiling softly at my reflection in the glass. For the first time in years I felt whole, powerful, and at peace. I whispered one final vow, more to myself than anyone else. I choose me. Always me. And with that, I closed the window, letting the night embrace my solitude, my freedom, my beginning.